Hey everybody, I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at this, I call it the Simmons Handbook, dated 1906, and it's basically a advertisement for the school listing. It provides photographs of what campus was like at the time. So I can scan this and show you, but that's the inside of Old Main. We talked about the other week. That's the library in there. Um, Here is these cottages. These are brick cottages. This is where the male students lived before they had an official dorm built for them. So I just want to share that real fast. Anyway, this week we're going to talk about money. Yeah, we need money. Even though we are a Christian school, without money we would not exist. And there are a lot of people's jobs on this campus to constantly find money to keep the school operating, whether that's money needed to fundraise to build a new building, or money to start a new academic program. We all know money doesn't grow on trees. And so we need individuals with deep pockets to help us out. And every nonprofit has to do that. And so let's just dive in and start talking about what nonprofit finances are, what donors are. And then later this week or today, whenever you get around to it, you are going to watch an introductory video of James B. Simmons. He is one of our famous donors. The school is partially named for him. You also have some readings that describe other donors across time. So my first question to you all is, what is a nonprofit organization? You might hear it referred to as an NPO, especially for you business majors who might be taking classes about nonprofit management and finances. It's a big misconception that when you hear nonprofit, you think, oh, these organizations don't make money or they can't make money. And that's not it at all. NPOs make money. They have to make money. Otherwise, how would they survive? But nonprofits, they typically emerge in a market where there is the need for a service or industry that the public sector is not providing. So Hardin-Simmons University at the time, when it was created, Simmons College, Abilene Baptist College, there was not a Christian college in the area. And there was not a college that was funded by tax dollars in the area at the time. So the public sector was not providing a service, higher education. So the private sector, everyday people put their money together and fundraised to create a nonprofit entity, the college. So when you hear a nonprofit, don't just assume there's no money involved. There's money involved just like any other business, sometimes more money. It's just how the money is organized and spent is different. And the biggest, most basic difference that you will find in nonprofit versus for-profits are how the money is distributed. So in a for-profit organization, your organization governance. So those people who are at top, they are your board of trustees or your board of directors is what they're called in that world. They're called the same thing in the nonprofit world. But these individuals are responsible for financial and mission drive of your organization. They set the rules, and because they set the rules, they take a paycheck. And so whatever money that company makes, whether it's through profits, whether it's through stocks being sold, that money funnels down into their pockets. Those board members, shareholders, they collect a salary, essentially, a profit from this for-profit business. In the nonprofit sector, those people who make the decisions, your board of trustees, they don't collect a paycheck. They do everything on volunteer work. So any profit the business makes, like Hardin-Simmons, any profit that the school makes goes back into the business's budget. So that money just circles back into the industry, and that money could be used to pay for more programs, to improve facilities, for salaries of individuals. It all depends on how the organization wants to spend the money. But know that in nonprofits, any profit comes back into the organization to build and grow the organization. While in a for-profit, any money goes back out. Any profit goes into the pockets of those who are higher up. Okay, so basic difference. There's another layer to this conversation that I want to get into where you have your nonprofit difficulties. So, like I said, nonprofits arise because there is a need for a service. And in your layer of nonprofits, you have a lot of education. Okay, you have nonprofit schools. And here in Texas and in all the states, we have our public university and college sector and our private university and college sector. Hardin-Simmons is a private institution. And if we think about the big schools like Tech, those are public universities. And the major difference between these two segregations is a public university is eligible to receive tax dollars. So those taxes that you're paying at every purchase you make for your income, or not your income, we don't have state income tax in Texas, but property taxes, that all, like a portion of that gets sent to those state schools. And that is how state schools are able to have lower tuition costs, because they can subsidize those tuition costs with the tax dollars that are coming into them. Private universities do not receive any tax dollars whatsoever. So that's why you see tuition costs are higher at private universities. So both public and private universities receive income through tuition, right? Through donors, which we will talk about in a moment, through grants, which are organizations that have lots of money and they're like, oh, hey, your mission aligns with what we're doing. Let's give you some money so you can continue with your mission, continue with your work, because we want to back you. That's what grants are. And then federal aid. So federal aid is money from the federal government. Public universities are eligible for federal aid. Private universities are sometimes eligible for federal aid. For example, the fact that we identify ourselves in our charter as a Christian university, because we teach at that with that name, we are not eligible for some financial support through the government. Whereas where I went to college, it always was identified as a religious institution. But a few years ago, the board of trustees of my alma mater decided to take off that name, saying that they were aligned with a Christian faith, so they could receive federal aid. So there are lots of caveats in where money comes from, but I just want you to see that there's these differences between public and private universities, which are also in the nonprofit sector. All right, so they're both bringing in money. Some of them are making a profit, some of them are not. So what is a donor and why do we need donors? Donors are individuals or groups or foundations who have money to give to a cause that they believe in. So you can look at it large scale, where we have here on campus, you'll see a building named Moody, and it's named for the Moody Foundation, who was a large donor for the construction of that building. You can break it down even smaller to an individual. James B. Simmons was a donor. He gave that initial $5,000 the school needed to construct Old Main. So he was an individual donor. And then look at it on like the smaller level. An individual can write a check to $25 to mail into the school and say, here's my contribution, please apply it where you think it's needed. So donors help fill the gaps of where an institution needs aid. But some examples of here on campus as to what our donors fund are scholarships. How many of you are here at HSU because of a scholarship that was awarded to you? All of those scholarships are funded by donors. And again, it's the donor's interest. Somebody's grandfather may have been a student at Hardin-Simmons and was on the football team. And they were so impacted by Hardin-Simmons that they gave $1,000. And they said, every year, I want 500 of this $1,000 to go to a student. and who majored in history like my grandfather. And they keep funding that scholarship so somebody can benefit from it. We need donors for buildings. Actually all of these buildings on campus exist because donors, whether it's foundation, alumni, community members, saw that it would be a benefit to the campus and to the campus community, the students, and they wrote a check to contribute towards the cost of it. Scoreboards. There's an alum who loves scoreboards. And so all of our upgraded scoreboards that we've been getting on all our various athletic fields and gyms are because one donor says, I love scoreboards, and I think your students would benefit and have a more positive athletic experience if there were more updated scoreboards. Different statues on campus, the statue in front of the Fletcher Fitness Center of the HSU Cowgirl, that money was given to us by former Cowgirls. They saw a need, they wanted to preserve the story of the Cowgirl, have a presence on campus, and so they fundraised within themselves, within their group, and gave us a donation. The freshman Bible that you all receive as freshmen, that is funded by alumni donors. Alumni think it's important that all students have a Bible while they're here on campus, so they donate money to purchase those Bibles. The swimming pool, the brand swimming pool was built because alumni thought students needed a swimming pool on campus. So basically everything on this campus exists because a donor saw the need for it and said, I'm going to put my money, I'm going to plant the seed, and I won't benefit from this seed. But 20 years down the line, somebody will be able to sit in the shade of this tree. I'm sure you all have heard that analogy before. So that is why donors are so very important. And it's interesting because our namesake, James B. Simmons and John Hardin, where we get Hardin-Simmons University, they both gave financial contributions. However, there have been donors who have given more money than those two people. And it's just interesting that in terms of when money is given, how desperately it's needed, determines how well that person is remembered. And then also some donors don't want to be remembered for their money. They want to remain anonymous. And so this is just super basic introduction as to why we need donors and their impacts on this campus. And so this goes into these themes that I have listed here on this PowerPoint that you will see over and over and over again in your readings throughout the entire semester, through our conversations, through these posts, and then as you're walking around campus, these donor relations play a role in every decision that comes on campus. So there's the significance of donor relations. It is important for nonprofits, and Hardin-Simmons is included in this, to foster healthy relationships with future donors and current donors. And so you all, as students, you all are future donors of this place. I know you're probably thinking, I don't have any money. What do you mean I'm a future donor? I'm paying tuition right now. I'm already paying my way here. How can they expect more money from me? Well, nonprofits, they invest in you. They put so much in you. They give you, in the example of higher ed, they give you the skills to go out and get a job and grow and contribute to the world. And so they've given you that foundation. And the hope is that once you have gone out into the world and you have achieved a certain status and financial stability, you will then reflect back and remember, I'm here because of Hardin-Simmons. And so you give back to the school. The same thing is said with our churches, right? You give into the collection plate weekly. And so nonprofits rely on these donor relations. Fundraising is a huge, huge deal with nonprofits, and they do about it in multiple ways. There are large-scale campaigns which go on for months and months and months, and these large-scale campaigns raise millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I will upload some scans for you to see what these look like. But these multi-million-dollar campaigns are typically done to construct whole new buildings, to possibly endow positions, to create new academic programs. So for example, we are currently in the process of developing an equine therapy program because we already have the horses here on campus, and we already have our physical therapy and athletic training programs here on campus. And so through analyzing trends, we're realizing there is a need for equine therapy training, for occupation therapy and occupational training. And so we are currently fundraising to build a new center for our horses where classes can coincide with the horses, right? So that is an example of a large-scale fundraising project. But there are also smaller fundraising projects where, like I said earlier, the cowgirl statue, that is an example of a small fundraising project. That is a group of a small group of people who see a need and they raise the money within themselves. Just like your social clubs, if you have dues that you have to pay in order to go to an event, you are fundraising towards that end game. There's a huge significance of messaging and branding that nonprofits have to follow. Foundations, which are those large institutions that have money that they want to give out to individuals and groups that align with their mission and vision, are looking for good messaging, good branding that show, if I give money to you, you're going to spend it in a way that aligns with my mission and my wants. And so it is imperative that nonprofits are on top of their messaging so they can apply for these funds and be awarded them. Advancement offices, also known as development offices, are a huge component of nonprofits. We have an advancement/development office here at Hardin-Simmons. They're located in Sandifer, and their jobs are to raise funds for the school. And so you have individuals who identify different types of donors. I'm doing a lot of hand motions and I'm realizing you can't see them half the time. So these development officers, the people who work here on campus, say, Bob's goal is to target potential donors who are going to give anywhere from $500 to $1,000 in a year. And so he identifies people who can give that type of money. So he'll look through alumni records and say, what type of jobs do these alumni have? Are they teachers? Can they afford this? Are they software engineers? They can afford to give more. So a different development officer will then go after individuals who could potentially give more money. And then you have development officers who go after individuals who, or foundations or grants. And so they go after the big chunks of money. And when I say go after, I don't mean about that in a predatory sense at all. It's about forging relationships, making those individuals want to give back, making them excited about programs and offerings that are going on here on campus, making them want to be involved. And so advancement and development officers are very, very personable individuals. They're salespeople, and they are selling the school to them, to these donors, in the hopes that a financial contribution will come in return. And then the significance of our mission. This aligns with the messaging and branding bullet point, where it is imperative that our mission is transparent and followed through. We couldn't claim to be an institution enlightened by faith, providing an education enlightened by faith, and then didn't do it and expected people to donate to us. No, we provide higher education enlightened by faith, and we do it so good that people want to give to us so we can continue providing that service to people. So that, in a nutshell, is what donor relations look like and what nonprofit nonprofit finances look like. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. It's a very interesting and complex world. And if you are somebody who can tell a story really well and be engaging and share your excitement and your passion with somebody to the point where that person you're speaking to wants to get involved with what it is you're talking about, you're selling a product. And potentially donor relations is something that you should look into as a future career. So that's it on this message. Like I said, quick introduction. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to ask. I said that already. And read about it. It's really interesting. And you know, there's a lot to it, a lot of nuance. And you will learn, oh, I didn't say this. You will learn that a lot of decisions on this campus are done for donors. Obviously the students, we are here for the students, absolutely 100%. But a building, say we really need a new academic building. I'm just throwing that out there as an example. Say we really need an academic building, but Mr. Smith says, I'm going to give you $2 million, but that $2 million needs to go to the construction of a brand new pond for Gilbert. And so the donor or the advancement crew will say, okay, well, we'll build a new pond for Gilbert and make him a cool new house with that $2 million. While we all know here on campus that if we had an updated academic building, it would be a better use of money. But donors will not always give money in the way that is most helpful at the time. However, it's still a generous gift, and we accept it very happily and lovingly. It's just like when you're younger and you'd get a birthday gift that you thought, oh, I didn't want this, but you're grateful nonetheless. So that's it on my end. Y'all have a good day, and we will connect later. Bye.